the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees in the Near East, or UNRWA, which was mandated by this Assembly, faces imminent collapse.
Despite this prompt and decisive action and the unsubstantiated nature of the allegation, 16 countries have paused their funding, totaling $450 million. UNRWA has no capacity to absorb financial shocks, especially while a war rages in Gaza. I'm deeply grateful to the member states and donors that have maintained or even increased the funding. Thanks to them, the agency, which is the backbone of humanitarian assistance in Gaza, can continue operating and remains a lifeline for Palestinian refugees across the region. But for how long? It is hard to say. We are functioning hand to mouth. Without additional funding, we will be in uncharted territory with serious implications for global peace and security. The fate of the agency and the millions of people who depend on it hang in the balance. Excellencies, UNRWA is facing a deliberate and concerted campaign to undermine its operations and ultimately end them. More blatant is the Israeli Prime Minister openly stating that UNRWA will not be part of post-war Gaza. The implementation of this plan is already underway with the destruction of our infrastructure across Gaza Strip. Dismantling UNRWA is short-sighted. By doing so, we will sacrifice an entire generation of children, sowing the seeds of hatred, resentment, and future conflict.
The General Assembly to address the critical situation of one of its longest-standing subsidiary bodies, UNRWA. The Assembly cannot look away as Israel continues targeting UNRWA with attacks on its staff and premises, obstruction of its humanitarian aid, attempts to evict it from occupied East Jerusalem, and a defamation campaign that has thrown its financial situation into turmoil after a sudden suspension of funding by several major donors. That this is happening in the midst of the ongoing catastrophe in Gaza makes it even more harrowing. We could have never imagined that international community would allow Israelis genocide against the Palestinian people, nor could we have imagined it would abandon UNRWA and the Palestinian refugees in their most desperate hour of need. We appeal to donor states to immediately reconsider their suspension and to resume funding. Failure to do so will devastate an already severely traumatized refugee population, destabilize host countries, undermine prospects for peace, and be a stain on our shared humanity.
And I now invite the distinguished representative of Yemen, speaking on behalf of the Arab group.
وعدم إمكانية أن تقوم أي وكالة أو جهة أخرى بالدور الذي تلعبه هذه الوكالة العريقة في خدمة اللاجئين الفلسطينيين في الأراضي الفلسطينية المحتلة وفي دول الجوار، فإنها تدين بشدة محاولات سلطات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي استهدافها وتفكيكها وإنهاء وجودها.
An unimaginable suffering for Palestinians in Gaza and the occupied territories. Allow me, some member states have chosen to suspend funding to UNRWA while simultaneously selecting to fund the Israeli war machine with millions, if not billions of dollars. Please excuse me for not comprehending the double standards being applied.
And I now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Pakistan, speaking on behalf of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation.
this callous slaughter of the destitute illustrates the nature of the catastrophe that has engulfed Gaza and the people of Palestine. Mr. President, the OIC reiterates its unwavering commitment to upholding the rights of the Palestinian refugees, including the right to return, as stipulated in General Assembly Resolution 194 and in compliance with international law. Additionally, the OIC reaffirms its enduring support for UNRWA, to which several OIC member countries contribute generously as donors.
And I now invite the distinguished representative of South Africa to take the floor.
We are fully aware that for many years now, it has been the intention of Israel to eliminate UNRWA. We heard it this morning from the representative of Israel. In light of the suffering on the ground, we consider his comments to be despicable and view the current accusations within that light.
Proceed to giving the floor to the distinguished representative of the United States.
More aid must more effectively reach more people. As Hamas and other terrorist groups continue to fuel this conflict and hold hostages, we are engaged in intensive diplomacy to achieve a significant temporary ceasefire, along with the release of all hostages, which would enable the distribution of humanitarian assistance at the scale needed, create safety for civilians and aid workers, and alleviate the suffering of the people of Gaza. It is up to Hamas to accept the deal on the table.
And now give the podium to the distinguished representative of Israel.
UNRWA has been proven to be an instrumental part of Hamas's terror machine. Yet rather than take responsibility for the weaponization of this UN agency, senior UN officials have chosen to say that they had no knowledge of Hamas's hold on the agency.